Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Ovation session. Ovation is a red tea from Yunnan province, actually from Munghai County in Yunnan province. Munghai is on the border with Burma. And traditionally, it's been the godfather of poor, ancient poor trees, not poor trees, but ancient tea trees. They have incredible source material there. And you've encountered Munghai material before. So, for example, Non Nuo Mountain, we've talked about that. Newman, Sylvan Symphony. It also has we have some of the raw blacks from Munghai, Blessed Memento. We've talked about Iwu, which is in Munghai. And especially we've talked about a mountain called Labanjiang, and we've talked about that because currently in China, and actually for the last 10, 20 years, that's been one of the most famous of the tea trees or tea production areas in Munghai. Munghai has huge production factories. I would say Munghai probably produces altogether more than 100,000 tons of tea a year. We know the head and have visited one of the factories that produces about 30,000 tons alone. So this area is steeped in rich tea history. And so today, Ovation, there's some things we need to talk about in terms of Ovation. But before we do, let's run down a little bit more of a catalog of what Munghai is about. First, let's talk about energy, because you have two very famous distinct types of energy in Munghai. One is what they call the yang energy. So aggressive, strong, really big in the taste, in the astringency, and that would be Labanjiang. It's known throughout the tea world as having that type of strength. Then you have the feminine. The feminine comes out of Iwu. Iwu, soft, sweet, delicious. So tea drinkers in China kind of think of Munghai in those terms. You have those two extremes, and then you have famous mountains in between. Mentioned Nano with Newman. You also have some other mountains in there that produce some beautiful ancient tree tea, some of which we don't have. We'll get it eventually. So last year we went to Ibu and we went to the Research Institute. So let me bring the name of the tea that we brought back to everybody's memory. For those of you who had it, Fervor. And if you remember Fervor, it was the most surprising, fully fermented black tea you've ever had. And it had those hints of softness. So Ovation, let's get back to Ovation for a minute. Is it ancient tree? Yes, it is ancient tree. Is it alone? Oh no. Ovation. You can't have an ovation with one hand, right? You got to have two hands. So let's think about what else accompanies Ovation. You got these beautiful ancient trees, and then you have something else. You have a beautiful flower in with the ancient tree, and it's a dendrobium. A dendrobium is a type of orchid There are probably 1,000 different varietals of dinobrium. And in China, specific varietals are used for TCM purposes, traditional Chinese medicine purposes. So now we're in a dance here. Now we can have an ovation. We've got an orchid and we have ancient tree. So let me ask you this. Do you think when this is created, farmers know that we have this great tea, ancient tree? Over the years, this has become very popular, very expensive, very sought after. Hey, did the farmer wake up one morning and say, let's add a little color. Let's throw in some flowers. By the way, where do these dinobrium orchids come from? They also come from forests in Munghai. And remembering that the orchids are epiphytic. What does that mean? They hitchhike a ride on other plants. So presumably farmers looking, hey, this is growing on my tea tree. I wonder what it would be like if we did it together. Did a farmer do this, or did professionals within the tea industry do this? Professionals within the tea industry did this. Why? There's techniques of preparation, of processing that are very important with this tea. So you always, when you have really, really great flowered tea, and what I mean is a true mix of the flowers and the tea together, you always have different steps, and it's not a casual process. Oh, I'll go pick out some rose petals today and sprinkle it in. It is not that. You have to get the flower into a certain state before you mix it with the tea. And once mixed, then you have to further get them together in yet a blended state. So how does that all work? Well, with Ovation, what happens is you go through normal processing techniques for red tea, right? You pick a certain grade, you make sure it's uniform. This is more important than other styles of full red tea in Yunnan. Why is this important? Because you are putting out a tea with a flower. So there's an aesthetic consideration. As soon as you add a flower to anything, there's at least one, many times two considerations. The first consideration, oh, this has to taste good. Okay, so there's a processing consideration to bring out what you're looking to do with the two elements. And then there's usually an aesthetic consideration. Well, when we brew this, we'd like it not to look ugly. In fact, we'd like it to look beautiful. So when they do this, they go, as I was mentioning, they go through the regular red tea routine. And then instead of full bake at the end, they do most of the bake, but not all of it. Flowers in a separate facility are dry. And then when they get to a sufficient level of moisture taken out of the flower, they're brought in, and at a very low temperature, a final bake process occurs. You have a bake and mix, so to speak. Every farmer or every tea producer does this a little differently. We love what this tea producer did because they spared no effort in terms of timing. They spared no effort in terms of getting the right ratio. Ratios are important because if you don't think about that and you just think, well, my grandma said, just throw a handful in. and you'll always be okay. This is true probably 500 or 600 years ago, but it's not true today. We like our ratios, yes.
For this, well, when did flowers, what do you know about the history of introducing flowers with tea? So for this particular one, you said tea professionals
Yes.
Made this choice. I wonder whether they also were building on a history of that happening more informally or formally, just by way of the farmers.
I love this question. Flowers and tea. All of you think I'm going to go the jasmine route. You would be wrong. Instead, we're going to go the historical route. Let's see. Shall I go back 1,000 years? Maybe I should go back even more than that. Maybe I should go back about 1,400 years ago. 1,400 years ago, remembering China was producing all of its tea to the best of our knowledge as green tea, right? Process. Oh, wait a minute. Let's think about this. Oh, you process. I glossed over the most important thing. Do you fry or you steam? You steam. Because they weren't frying yet at that time. You steam the tea. Okay. Oh, we dodged a big one with that. Oh, wait a minute. There's more process. You make a cake. And after you dry that cake, you chip it off, you grind it up. You mean they borrowed the process of matcha from Japan? No, that's not what I mean. Japan got that from China. This is an age-old process in China. As they started to have competitions, especially among scholars and poets and officials, they started having tea tasting competitions. So when they did, the creative juices started to come in play. So they started mixing flowers, peels of fruit, other types of aromatics within, and created these cakes and entered these competitions. In the Tang Dynasty, there is evidence, documentary evidence of this happening, and they'd have these competitions, really cool. And so really the art of mixing things outside of tea together started way back then. And over the years, some teas have traditionally taken on a flower, not many. Jasmines are one of them. And so floral, particularly once they started roasting, started to become less. When they were steaming, it was much more, because I think it was easier in that process as the cake was wet to put flowers in there and then dry it together. And it was an organic process, so to speak. But once you started roasting, that's a whole different situation, because if you try and roast flowers along with the tea leaves, what happens to the floralness? Dissipates. Can't do it. Just cannot do it. So there's always an element where when you can introduce, and this was experimented with lots of flowers, and then as they got good at this, they realized, okay, if we're smart, we're going to handle the flower mostly separately, and then we're going to handle the tea, and then find a way, depending on the delicacy of the flower, to combine them. So remembering jasmine, you infuse, but you don't usually keep with the tea. This, on the other hand, and also omnipresent on the other hand, you do something first to the flower so it doesn't have that moisture. Why? You're going to put it in water. It's going to be very moist in a minute. But before it gets moist, you need to store it. And when you store it, the moisture levels of both the flowers and the tea leaves need to be roughly equivalent. And the way they deal with this with Ovation is they bake them together. And this is an interesting process and really results in this beautiful tea. Did I cover the, okay, good. So that's one of the things that's different. Let's talk again about this denobrim. This denobrim historically is part of TCM. So this particular varietal is supposed to be really good in taking care of the yin, you know, the cold, the dark. If you have too much yin, the yin and the yang, that type of yin. If you have too much, and this is, remember, traditional Chinese medicine terms, there really aren't good equivalents in Western medicine. But basically, if you have too much moisture, this helps reduce the moisture. So in local villages where these flowers grow, they use that for TCM as well, and various other things that this flower is supposed to do. But that's not why you and I are drinking this, because we love TCM. Yes, yes, we do. However, that's not what we do here. What we do here is drink the tea because we love the qualities of the tea. And so that's how this thing was produced. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about this whole area because this is important. Why is Munghai so famous today among the entire world tea elite? If you drink tea, you don't think of the Ailao Mountains first, unless you are in China or you're in this tea shop and you've been exposed to that. For casual to intermediate drinkers, Munghai is the first thing that comes to mind because so much is produced there. And you have, again, this extreme yang, Abanjiang, extreme yin, Yiwu. And Yiwu is actually responsible in many ways for getting so much attention on this area. Why? Japanese invade Japan. That would be a unique trick. Japanese invade China. I'm just seeing if you guys have had your tea this morning. They invade China in 1931. They really invade China in 1937 because they start to go down in the interior. 1938, everything is a darn mess. The Yiwu tea, which was produced for at least 400 or 500 years before this event, that starts to be taken out of Yiwu and stored in various places. One of the things that was not well understood in the tea elite world pre this time was, hey, as you store these things, they get appreciably better. Now you have bad storage and you have good storage. If you store it in a bad way, it doesn't get appreciably better. In fact, it deteriorates. That's not good. But if you store it in a good way, oh my God, more of the sweetness, more of the mellowness. It's incredible what occurs if you store. And Yiwu tea became very, very famous. And first in Hong Kong, because that's where a lot of it was stored during World War II, and then in Taiwan, and then back in China, and then with the tea elite. That is a picture of why pu'er and red tea in Munghai, that led to so much interest in that area's teas because Yiwu tea took on this outsized fame and then led everybody to say, oh my gosh, we better take a closer look at this area. And what did they find in this area? Thousands of acres of ancient tree tea. So let's play around just slightly, and then we're going to get to Ovation. So you just heard me say thousands of acres of ancient tree tea. Now, if you're a newcomer, you would think, oh, okay, Chinese in ancient times just planted these things row after row. Absolutely not. So these are growing wild in these forests. And the more they look, the more they find. And the ages are all over the place. You have stuff as young as 300 or 400 years. You have stuff as old as close to 3,000 or maybe more. So you have this wide range in this area. That's not all. You have different species in this area and different varietals. This is how rich an environment. What does it feel like, by the way, when you're in Manghai? It's hot. Ooh, more than hot. It's humid. And the bugs. Wow. They themselves took on evolutionary excitement in this area. So they're gigantic. And they make lots of noise when they fly. My favorite place to visit, this would not be my favorite environment to long-term live. But I do, all of this stuff is very beautiful. And the tea is very great. But this is trying to paint this picture for you. Forested, essentially villages carved out around tea trees, and essentially an interaction with the plants that borders on having the plants be totems. In other words, very important parts of their lives. This was accentuated after 2010 because this market began to take off after 2010, and they got rich, very rich. All right, all of you are rich, but you're feeling impoverished in terms of drinking the tea right now. So let me ask the tea master to come up and demonstrate how to do this tea, and then to brew along with you. So without further ado, it is my great pleasure to bring up Biju, the radiant tea master.
Thank you. Yeah. Good morning. 早上好 everyone. We do ovation, This from the Yunnan, our province, in Manghai County, So we do, okay, we can try. This is my tea section, so tea tree, big glasses, streamers, rubber clean, rubber easy, the brew. So yeah.
Very clean, very easy to brew. I like easy to brew. You need 2 glasses only. We have 3 here. 2 will do. No covers. We don't cover this stuff. A strainer, no fancy tools. You don't want it constrained in some small ball or round receptacle, cylindrical receptacle. Don't do that. We have a tea tray, which is fun because it catches the water, and we can have fun and not be worried about where the water goes because it's in the tea tray. These are useful tools. Whether you use one or not, it's not a requirement. The cups are a requirement and the strainer. That's it. What you do is water. All right, so the tea master is drawing 175-degree water because that's what our water towers provide us, or at least one or two of them do. And what she's going to do is aerate the water, dissipate the steam. You notice there's a rhythm in what she does. Nice rhythm. And your rhythm doesn't exactly have to match hers, but your rhythm does have to have a certain, it has to pay attention to details. Helps you be present. And being present is the name of the game when you're drinking tea. Wow, that looks like a lot of tea. And those white things in them, they're yellow actually. Those yellow things in them. Oh yeah, that must be the orchid I just talked about, the Dendrobium orchid. She smells. She seems happy. Puts the water back into the kettle so that she can control the pool. All right. 2 minutes. So one of the things to note about these type of teas, why is it so hard to get these? It's hard to get these because these are natural flowers. People like to take shortcuts with industrial food, with industrial processes, and put drops of essence and so forth. It's different. It's completely different. And you'll see that when it's your turn to brew, that the taste of this is really unlike anything you've had in terms of a tea like this. This is even very different, and it's because of the flower, not the process, because the processes are similar for omnipresent. Omnipresent is more in your face. Ovation, you need a second, and then you realize, oh my God, this is really good. By the way, I forgot to ask you to get your notes out from the previous 5-6 weeks, because this is the last of the red teas that we're going to do during this series. And next week, we'll pivot for the last session that we're here before we do our tea trip. We'll pivot to yellow teas. And I'm sorry it's not in the website, but you all who are within the club have it, and you can see what the yellow teas are going to be. And I'll post all of that on the website within the next day or two. Good, and that is a reminder, don't forget to order this upcoming week if there's anything you want over the next 5 or 6 weeks, because we won't reopen until May 27th. All right. Timer has gone off. This tea master with good rhythm. Not in a hurry. Gonna separate the tea leaves and flowers. Tea water. We have something beautiful here. Let's look at this thing for a minute. Transparent. little yellowish reddish. So you have probably closer to maybe, I don't want to give percentages, but what it suggests is more of the theorubicans were allowed to come out. How do you unlock theorubicans? Is there some key, some magic key? Yes, there is a magic key, and it's called oxidation. So you oxidize longer, you get more theorubicans, you have fewer theoflavins. How do I know again when I have more theoflavins than theorubicans? The color of the tea is lighter. It's more yellowish and sometimes can be very light. Think Harold. We had Harold during this session. So this has obviously been oxidized a little bit longer. So all these things are subtleties. Do you need to understand these subtleties in order to enjoy the tea? You don't need to understand these subtleties at all. Is it nice to understand these subtleties? Absolutely is. I'm going to enter the quality arena right now. Astringency, aftertaste, and energetics is what I'm. Okay, I'm getting a sense of where the astringency is for me. Energetics, wow, I already have a sense of the energetics too. That's unusual for me. Usually it takes the second sip or the third sip. This one I already do. Aftertaste, I'm working on. So I'm going to do taste and aroma, verify the energetics, verify everything else. That is the aftertaste and astringency. So you're going to have some fun trying to parse out your descriptions of this taste, because this is not exactly as obvious, say, as omnipresent, but it's there. It's your turn to brew. So bag number 3, Ovation. That's what you're going to use. There's 7 grams of tea and flowers in there. So you can kind of understand when you think about it, remembering that these are orchids. So it just isn't about collecting ancient tea leaves. You got to collect the orchids too. So hence, there isn't a huge amount of this on the market.
People buy this tea within China very often. It must be highly prized by the internal tea lovers.
It is highly prized by tea aficionados, and they'll travel great distance to buy it. It's really hard unless you go down to the area where this is done to have a steady supply of this. You have to be able to go down and find somebody who's doing it. And year by year, it's different because a farmer, they're within a certain area, but some farmers, some years, or the conditions. Oh, and this brings up, this is a great question, because this brings up something that this year we're already beginning to get some reports. We just got some reports yesterday. It's heated up so fast that things are coming in way fast, and in a way like here, in some way uncontrolled. All of a sudden, you know, for allergy sufferers, one day it's too cold. Why can't the gods turn the sun up? Then the next day, you know, the gods having fun. Turn this on, we can do that. And then for 3 weeks, we have this unseasonably warm. Everything blooms, everything is out there. When it blooms too fast like this, it's hard to make these blooms because there's kind of an order to the way things are produced. And it's even hard on the teas because too much is coming into play right away. And so normally, when you have more gradual, you have one day, this area is ready. Next day, oh, this area is coming in and ready. When it's hot right away, everything comes in ready. You can't pick it.
2 minutes.
It's 2 minutes. Oh, yes, I was paying attention. You can't pick everything. Right. So it's challenging. This global warming is a no kidding situation. And it affects RT and it affects what you're going to be able to get over the years. We can't wait to go and look at the fields this year. And of course, everything will be full processed by the time we get there, because this is much later than we usually go. And, you know, based on, well, we took a guess that it was going to come in later this year. Bad guess. It's actually coming in earlier and more complete.
I wonder whether the faster growth will also impact the actual chemical constituents of the plants.
Great question. So when it's warmer earlier, is the plant have the same proportions of caffeine, catechins, polyphenols, and the various alcohols? By alcohols, I mean the oil compounds, linalool, geraniol, that's what I'm talking about. And the answer is absolutely does not. Will it be within a range? Yes, it's within a range. And so, for example, and this question is good for another reason as well. In Munghai, the amount of caffeine in the tea is higher than other regions. And that has to do with the terroir and the growing conditions. And so, do these things affect? Yeah, they do. And what's great now is scientists are really digging down deep into those type of numbers. And we're getting more information now than we've ever had. Great question. So you're separating the tea leaves and flowers, the tea water. And you're looking at an absolutely beautiful cup of tea. And so make sure you are present as you're drinking this one. This is one, if you're not present, it is very easy to speed drink this and then get to the end. What did I just have again? What is the flavor? Because you spit. And on a day like today, where it's warmed up here in California, it's especially easy to speed drink this. And think about why that is as you're going through this appreciation of this tea. It has to do with all the factors. The aftertaste, the energy it gives you, where on the mouth it's dry, the astringency that is. All of these things combined with the flavor make you speed drink. See, even I have a little self-control. Usually I'm not this far down the glass. And I'm really restraining myself as I drink this.
It's nice when the understudy sets a good example.
Hey, there you go. It is, and it's so rare that the understudy sets a good example. Thank you very much for calling that out.
Jennifer says, wet leaves smell like a lovely fresh honey with honey foam.
Terrific. Wet leaves smell like fresh honey within the honeycomb. And this is a great opening description because as Americans, do we have self-control when sweetness is concerned? The answer is not very often. Great description. Now take your time. Yes.
Rob says the warm leaves have a scent of malt, chocolate, tobacco, and a hint of nutmeg. He also adds, note, I have been baking oatmeal cookies this morning.
So Rob detects a hint of malt, tobacco, and nutmeg.
And
chocolate.
And chocolate.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, there is not one ingredient in there that is not attractive. And remembering, as you taste and get these smells, that makes your mouth salivate. And as you salivate, it's like, oh, this is a message, a subliminal message from the taste buds. Hurry up and get this thing in me. Yes.
Jennifer says this tea is definitely gulpable.
There you go. I like that. Yeah, definitely culpable. I definitely agree with that.
Jonathan observes the tea water.
Yep.
We've gone from wet leaves, warm leaves to tea water. Tea water is less viscous than other Yunnan reds. However, the flavor thickness leaves my mouth full long after I swallow.
Oh, this is a subtlety and I like it. The subtlety is Jonathan's noted that the tea water just in and of itself isn't as dense or viscous as some other Yunnan reds. However, he makes the very important distinction that the actual flavor lingers and coats the mouth. So you have, and it's an odd combination, isn't it? And it's the type of combination, if it's viscous, the desire to drink is slowed down, not eliminated, slowed down. But the fact that it's got this interesting taste, not viscous, oh, I got to have some more. You know, come on.
Rob says, I fully realize that I just sipped 1/3 of the cup, but the flavor is smooth, it's round and cider-like. It is sweet, juicy, and fruity.
Sweet, juicy, and fruity, round and cider-like, and lack of self-control, all in one comment. And why was there that lack of, for the same reason that I have it, and for what Jonathan's talked about as an underlying thing. It's like, I have to just get more in my mouth. It feels like if I'm not getting this in my mouth enough, fast enough, it's like, oh, I got to refresh that flavor. I got to have more of that.
Stacy says, I get a calming energetic that makes me want to slow down and breathe deeply, but hurry up and drink.
I love this. Calming energetics that makes Stacy want to slow down, but hurry up and get in it. And I catch that dichotomy because the energetics on this are very warming, they're very grounding, and yet the mouth portion connected to the brain is screaming, get me some more, hurry up, you're too slow. Great comment.
Stacy also observes, hey, I get cider and honey and something else, maybe pine?
I like this. So Stacy is reaching around in the flavors, and I especially like this because this is what I was hinting at before. She talked about getting the honey, the cider, and then she notices that there's something else that's hard to put an exact name on. So she's starting that process, maybe a little piney. And with this, unlike omnipresent, omnipresent gives you a target. Here, you're targetless. It's sweet, chocolate, oh, yum, mellow. Wait a minute. There's something else there. Don't bother me with something else. I just like, let's get more in. And this is part of the magic of this compared to other teas that have floralness in it. Because I don't think I've ever served this to anybody here in the shop. And it's hilarious. People order, and then I stand back and watch. I have a timer. And usually people are done with that cup, even when they're talking with people and trying to observe good manners. That cup is reducing real fast.
Rob says, Sue says it's apple pie, and everyone loves apple pie.
There you go. Thank you, Sue. Sue notes it's apple pie-ish, and Rob comments, everybody loves apple pie. And this is so true. The aroma, that's what they love about apple pie. The aroma before it comes out of the oven fires you up. The aroma and the initial taste fire you up. And then once that apple pie's out of the oven, I'm only going to have one slice. Oh, I see everybody else is having 2 slices. Well, to have good manners, I'll have 2 slices too. Oh, they're having a 3rd slice. I observe good manners. Same with this. Just in case you can't tell, we love this tea. And we love it for reasons that are different from omnipresent. We love it for reasons different from the other floral teas. It's got this combination. I think Jonathan was closest when he said, not viscous, but it's still, from a taste perspective, coat your mouth, and then quickly seems to go away, so you gotta have more. Perfect description. Perfect description. All right. We love capping this 6-week series with Ovation because it's so different from the other red teas. And yet it is right? Because the other red teas all have some degree, smaller or greater, a very pleasant, almost sweet. This one actually does have that honey sweetness to it. This one speeds you through, unlike the others. So, and this one has the actual flower, the denobrim in it. Kind of magic. As usual, I salute you because great commentary today. You really nailed this one. I can't wait until next week. Next week, we're going to do a yellow tea. I've forgotten which one, but that's okay. Just be aware that it will be a yellow tea. And then I'll explain to you next week how the programs will go once we're in China, which is not that many days away. We'll be in China in about 10 days. So it's coming up fast. And again, if you need stuff, come this weekend. Don't wait till the last minute. All right. Your responsibilities this week, be healthy. We'll see you next week. Take care now. Bye-bye.